Not even like I don't even really like Jesus that much. Like he's fine. But anyway, the whole point is to kind of like remind people of kind of like the actual character of I think the Jesus that people are supposed to be representing. Um, and I hear a lot of people talking about like, these people are the real Christians are the ones who are like kind and nice. And I don't know, have a hard time I have a hard time with that because I have a difficult time, you know what I mean? But but that's what I mean. It's the calling out of the whitewashing, Amy, is like an important part of the conversation. Um, and it was interesting. Like a couple people yesterday were like, "Yeah, what's the point of protecting white Jesus?" That's actually kind of the question. Yeah, why protect that image? What's the point? Um, and then on my Discord server after the live stream, some people, mostly Anima, and then I and some other people did a couple actually mostly Anima talked about it. But mentioning how it was what's that called? It was really in like 1940, which was like that's about 90 years ago, right? 80, about 80 years ago. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I would just say like, uh, and the other thing is, to understand whiteness in the terms of like what whiteness means. I don't really know if Middle Easterners could be white in that sense, phenotypically, perhaps, but I'm pretty sure that would be rare. Um, to my understanding, most people, yeah, yeah, would likely not be phenotypically like European, which like so that's bizarre to say, but um, yeah, a white with tans. So like, anyway, yeah. I have never read the Old Testament. I don't know if you're talking about me or talking about other people, but yeah. So the idea that so perhaps maybe Jesus had lighter skin or something like that than the brown person pictured, for sure. But we're kind of talking about, um, where does it say Jesus is homeless? Like the Bible. Read the Bible. Like Jesus didn't have like a place. Um, you know, the whole like Son of Man doesn't have the place to lay his head. Yeah, like he traveled a lot, and I don't believe he. Yeah, there were definitely situations, sections in the Bible where Jesus clearly clearly was not housed, did not have housing. So yeah. Um, so to say that Jesus was a Christian would be weird. Yeah, so Jesus did, I think Jesus like lived with his family before, but when he was 33, he began doing his ministry. And Jamaican, I don't think that this is a liberal interpretation. I think that this is just an honest interpretation of what Jesus was about. Like Jesus was, yeah, he was a poor, homeless advocate for loving your neighbor. Like it's all accurate. Um, so, um, let's see. Okay. So, That's only the LDS, which is crazy. Uh, I'm trying to see how much money, like, because it's hard to see how much money how much money churches bring in every year. But this one is just literally just showing that okay, no, that's different. Wow. Yeah, like this is just for the Church of the Latter-day Saints, which is like a portion of American Christian. I mean, if you would consider, I'm pretty sure that Mormons consider themselves Christians. I don't know if all Christians consider Mormons Christians, but they're a sect of Christianity. Um, their donations in actually no, I lied. Yeah, they have a very very high. I'll just say that they have a very high net worth, which is kind of crazy. And the amount of money that they give is not, I would say, like, doesn't seem to represent what Jesus stood for. And like I said, so you're saying that the LDS is not Christianity. That's what all I'm saying is that oftentimes Christians, or I'm sorry, oftentimes Mormons will identify as Christians. So, um, hold on. Trying to see how much money, like, Americans specifically. Okay, so they only have the numbers in 2022. So in 2022, Americans gave $143.57 billion to religious organizations and institutions. Like, what do you think about that? What do people think about that? What are your opinions? What do you think? I have my own opinions about that. But what do you think? Uh, yeah. Anyway, okay. So Mormons can call themselves Christians all they want, but LDS is built on scams and lies. Hey, I agree. I agree. But what I'm just saying is how these people talk about themselves. So Mormons believe in salvation through Christ alone. They are Christians just with extra fluff. Exactly. This is one of those the no true Scotsman situation within Christianity. It gets tricky. Okay, so Q Quip. I hear you saying that those religious institutions give a lot of that money to people who need help, which I hear you and I agree with you. But also, why is poverty in general increasing? Poverty, I mean, like, please correct me if I'm wrong. But to my understanding, poverty is not improving generally. Yes, maybe charitable donations by the church are occurring, they are happening, but what is that doing to actually change poverty? Like, to my understanding, for example, like Jesus was more of an advocate for saying, like, let's like take in the poor. If they're the widows, we should take care of them. But I don't know, I guess people forgot about that. That
Why does it matter what skin color Jesus was for the short time he was on this earth? Can I just ask?
that's actually a fantastic question. Because of what
Because
Jesus was made to represent after his life was
sorry.
over.
Okay.
So
Also, nigger, 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 nigger,
come
nigger.
on, dude. Goodness gracious. Like, you don't have to be, no, I mean, being straight up racist is better than being covertly racist. So, you know, at least there's that. But yeah, so but it's important because it's important to like erasing history. If Jesus wasn't white, then that means that people are thinking of him as a person who actually wasn't. And then also I've talked about kind of the cultural implications of viewing Jesus as a white person and what that allowed for like specifically the American public with slavery to allow. And I mentioned this yesterday. it would be very difficult to enslave brown and black people and then put a picture of a brown person at the front of your church and then go after church to whip those brown people. It'd be really weird. It'd be tough to do psychologically. So we have to think about how even white people were psychologically manipulated, literally psychologically manipulated to mistreat people of color. It's the truth. Okay. Uh, I don't know what it's supposed to ask about skateboarding. Yeah, loving Christians, right? Loving Christians are very nice, very sweet. Um, and TZ, for example, I don't claim that Jesus was black. I don't think that he likely was not phenotypically black. Um, he was, like I said, more likely in the Middle Eastern range, um, which would have given him likely not European features, more likely like different features. Um, that are represented in things like the way his melanin is spread out in things like his skin, his hair, and his eyes. And it's crazy because average 0 3, I'm not a follower of Christ. I'm not a fan of Christ. I just I just think that it's important that Christians have accurate information about the religion that they follow. So someone else, they were telling me that I was being mean to Christians. I was calling Christians stupid, and I wasn't. All I was saying was that Christians, this is like a general fact, and I would say like it's kind of biased because this is based on my opinions, and I do believe that I have looked at this research wise in the past, but like how well do Christians know scripture? I'm bad at typing. Um, yeah, they have a like it's so it kind of the mix is blended, I would say. It's definitely blended. Like a lot of people can answer a lot of like basic questions about like Jesus, like maybe who was Jesus or where was Jesus born, what did Noah's Ark do? But when we're talking about like theology and understanding theology and more of the details and stuff like that, then it gets a little bit more dicey. Yeah. Um, like, and then we're obviously talking about things like I chose, like I chose to dedicate my life to studying scripture for several years. So like, and not all Christians will do that. Yeah. And all that did was just give me a lot of information about the Bible. Um, and helped me understand it better. And like, this was gonna be like my career. So it helped for my career. But yeah, Connor Groves, the point of this comparison is, is kind of putting up against each other the concept of Jesus that we have, the modern concept of Jesus that I think is popularized in America, where I don't know, Jesus might represent something different than what people are assuming. Like if Jesus represents Christianity in America, like American Christianity, then he would be for more of those things. Like just be kind of yeah, ugh. Like would be supportive of like Manifest Destiny, for example. And I don't know if Jesus would be a fan of that. But yeah, who knows? Um, the Shroud of Turin. Okay, well now I know that you're joking. Um, was Jesus Christ a Christian? Jesus would not have been a Christian. Um, a child refugee. I think they're talking about likely his uh how his parents had to move when he was a child. If you were familiar with like the old scriptural stories. Um, yeah, like his family had to move. So yeah, I believe it's referencing like a. Hold on a second. Oh no, I'm thinking about someone different. No, Jesus was because like I'm pretty sure he was not like protected, and they wanted. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like he did have to flee because people were like trying to unalive him. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm literally over here advocating for Jesus. I'm not even one who like I'm not one who like is committed to his existence. Like I don't need him to exist for like before I needed him to exist for like my psychological survival. Jesus had to exist, but not anymore. So I'm not like married to his idea. Thank you, King Herod. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, some of the shit I forget because it's been some of the stuff I forget, and then some of the stuff you just like you say a verse or you start saying a verse and like my mouth just starts saying it and like I guess it just is embedded into my body. James, take a break. Um, he said, "Man should not lay with boy. Epstein, not gay." Like muscle memory. I think it's exactly that. Yeah. So yeah, the Old Testament was pretty clear, and the Bible is pretty clear. If you are actually like looking to the like the actual like words in the original text, not just the American translations, especially the ones that were done, I believe, in like 1960, 50. I forget when. I forget it was either 19. Yeah, I forget what year. Probably 1960 something. When the current like translations, I think, really shifted the cultural understanding of homo homosexuality and its sinfulness within the Christian perspective. Okay, it's the 50s. Yeah. Truman, there's a difference in boy and man translation in Hebrew. Did Jesus have hands? No, he did not have any hands. What's wrong with nationalism? Middle Easterners can also be nationalists, so IDK. Yeah, I think nationalism is just like probably a narrow, not probably, it is a very, but yeah, I think national borders, identifying too closely with countries. I need to better wrap my head around what I was going to say to that out loud. Do you think that Jesus had communist ideals? Kind of. Yeah. Only in that like he seemed to be like an advocate for um like commu communal care, like small Christian communities being able to like pool their money together and caring for each other. Oh, someone said that Jesus will likely have curlier hair in the image, and I would actually agree. Yeah. Um, when has anyone ever claimed to make Jesus to be American? That not exactly 100% sure. And I didn't make this image. I found this image on the internet. Um, and oh, okay. So are you saying so? Will A, you seem to be saying that the ideas that exist within communism didn't even exist at this point, so Jesus could not have had communistic perspectives, perhaps. Um, but I would say, okay, so wrapping my head more around what I wanted to say about nationalism, um, like committing to your nation as some type of uh, yeah, like I don't know, a place or something to be like revered or worshipped or something like that is likely interesting. I think Jesus communicated that it was important, like if you lived somewhere to participate as if you were living there, like not to ignore laws and stuff like that. Um, but to have I don't know, an evenness of mind about that perspective. Are you a Rastafarian? Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Uh, you know, that's my definitely what I am. And that's totally fair. I would say like community based ideas, if anything. And like Jesus seemed to be for like yeah, communal care. Um, if you want to be more specific about kind of like the means of production, I'd like yeah, I would agree that those things didn't exist at the time. Victor, I own no cats. I'm allergic to cats, actually. Why did so many people go crazy in 2020? Because there's a lot of reasons to go crazy, for example. Jesus is pure love, but he's also a consuming fire if you seek his wrath. Weird. What you mean Jesus was an American? Yeah. I feel like Jesus probably would like lean. Like, I like to entertain the idea that Jesus did a bunch of drugs. Could I say that word? Probably not. I probably gonna get banned. Um, I feel like it makes sense to me in my own way that I like to think about how religion was shaped and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what I mean. I I don't know. The burning bush. Hmm. Hmm. I also this is a joke, by the way. Yeah. What do you mean? Jesus didn't walk around wearing a MAGA hat? What? What? Yeah. Um, what does this prove? It proves the erasure. It proves the erasure of kind of like Jesus's nationality or likely Jesus's cultural identity. And I think just like removing brown faces from like art history is important. Like um like representation does matter. And imagine how and I like to say this a lot, like imagine how the world could have been different if we had a more accurate picture of what Jesus even looked like and we treated people who looked like Jesus with like dignity and respect and like treated them as human. Um, how is it appropriation? Negative. I don't think it's appropriate. Is it appropriate? I think it's more erasure than appropriation. Because wouldn't that be like if Jesus was like white and then he like they made him with like dreads or something? Like wouldn't that be more appropriation than anything? I don't know, but I could be wrong. You're assuming you never met him. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Have you seen people from Palestine? Um, do the Arabs treat Africans particularly well? I don't necessarily think so. I'm pretty sure that like do you mean like now or do you mean like culturally permanently like a long time ago? Because I would definitely say that Like anti-blackness has been pretty well established globally at this point. So, but I'm not sure what you mean by that. Okay. What's up?
Hey, what's up, Math?
Nothing much. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think Christianity was likely very different than it is today. Have you read any
Okay.
of the works by Augustine back in the
I have
beginning
not.
of the fifth century?
Mm-mm.
So what's really interesting is when they put together the Latin Vulgate, him and Jerome, he also wrote something called, it's in Latin, but it's the literal meaning of Genesis. And in that, he was saying not to basically not to debate science with religion. Don't debate the experts of their own books, especially if you don't have a foundation to stand on, because why would anyone listen to you who look like an unlearned man about your own book? So that came out, I mean, you're talking within the first 20 years or so of when the very first Latin Vulgate came out. So I'm not quite sure, when Christianity started to shift into the creationism, but if Augustine was still alive, he would literally probably call that heresy.
Right? Yeah. I. Hmm. I definitely. Uh. I think that like the I don't know the interesting cultural adherence to things like I don't know not paying attention to other types of like historical history, not historical scientific like advancements and stuff isn't necessarily helpful for the like movement of Christianity. Are you kind of saying that um yeah like not being able to shift perspectives
Yeah,
was harmful to the Christian organization or something like that?
I think Christianity completely changed due to cultural influences.
Okay.
And they started to create modern day philosophies out of words, changed the context of those words. And then even when we see the word Lucifer, it's the only Latin word that was interpolated into the Old Testament. So when we're reading the Old Testament, they still use the Satan, right, to describe Satan. But
Okay.
then there's one Latin word that they use for Lucifer. And then they take everything completely out of context. And you have all the churches saying that this was
Okay.
like a depiction of Satan. But literally at the beginning of the story, it says, use this taunt against the king of Babylon. And the word taunt in Hebrew there is where we get our word proverb from. So it's literally saying, use this parable against the king of Babylon. And then it goes into talk about Hillel. And at the time, Hillel was just the morning star. So in
Hmm.
Babylonian culture, when they would use poetic imagery, they would use Saturn, right? Is it Venus or
Okay.
Saturn? It might be Venus. I can't remember now. But anyway,
Okay.
there's just one star that shines in the sky as the sun is coming out. And they would see this as the a prominent star, the one
Yeah.
that shines against the rest, right? So
Right.
they would use this expression to explain a prominent figure. So they're literally just talking about the king of Babylon. It's really interesting because a lot of people miss
Hmm.
that at the very beginning where it says this is literally a parable. And you have all of these pastors that are teaching BS pretty much when literally it's just right there in front of their face. Just like when they're saying the Leviathan is dinosaurs and like, and I
Yeah.
just gotta laugh at that. I mean, and Christians go straight to carbon dating, and they don't know anything about uranium lead based dating. They think that
Right.
we're actually analyzing the bones. It blows my mind.
Yeah. Um, hmm. And are you kind of also making the statement that the majority of the reasons for this, I guess not necessarily shift, is just like, or this situation that's happened is just bad translations and miscommunications?
Yeah, really poor translations,
Okay.
especially when you get into the King James period.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I think it was a heavy influence of this dualistic idealism that came from paganism, and down the line, it from more, like, for instance, the word hell, like that's Germanic roots. The hell is the Norse pagan goddess of death. But then we see King James, kind of throws that in there, and then the Catholics spin it into a completely different thing in context. They're taking a place of waiting, and they're mixing it with a place of correction, and it completely throws off Christian eschatology. So yeah, like I would say that through cultural influences, Christianity has changed into an abomination of what it was supposed to be.
Oh wow, definitely. Yeah, I would pretty much agree generally. Um, and I think that like Protestantism has been able to create another interesting beast in America, um, as well. Uh, that to me is like an aberration of whatever, like I don't know, whatever Christianity could have been, or maybe I don't know, in the way that I like the compassionate framework that I see the ideal form of Christianity is very, very far away from that.
Yeah. I personally, I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, if depending on how you look at Christianity, and if you look into some of the older saints, I think some Catholics kind of have it right. Some it's a little twisted. I do think from the beginning there's some things in there that don't make a lot of sense to me
Well, yeah,
with Christianity, especially with the Virgin Mary. And they're
yeah,
relating that to Isaiah, when clearly in the verse Isaiah is talking to the king of Judah, and they're giving a timeline about a virgin birth. He's basically saying, hey, um, by the time the next virgin has a child, and that child is almost of age to know the difference between right and wrong, these two kings will leave you alone. Literally says that in there.
hmm,
Like, that's your literal version of that. I don't know how that would relate to the Virgin Mary whatsoever. I think it's a stretch.
yeah.
But I do think Jesus and Mary probably use it figuratively, not necessarily as a prophecy fulfilled. I think
Hmm,
Matthew is probably definitely confused. There's a lot of things in there that look
hmm.
contradicting to me, and I don't think that the disciples were necessarily perfect. We see that in their testimonies about the resurrection. Like, none of them match. But I mean, that's going to happen, right?
True.
Even if you have a crime scene, no one's story is going to match.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I think that there could be some misunderstandings between the disciples and between the writing itself. Because that
I
that
would
that in my mind, I've heard it explained to me so many different ways, and I don't understand. And when Isaiah is speaking to the king of Judah about the king of Israel and the king of Syria, how all of a sudden he just, like, in mid conversation, starts talking about something that's going to happen in 700 years or so.
hmm.
So yeah, it's something to look into.
Oh yeah. And just out of curiosity, are you a person who is of the faith or
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
not? Okay. Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Um, and no, I appreciate your insights and kind of like bringing in more of a academic perspective,
Yeah, I would
perhaps.
say I look at all sources, and I look at what the saints are saying, and try to look for the allegory, and we have a lot of anthropomorphic literature in there too. So
Hmm.
I like to look at it with an open mind, not necessarily taking all this stuff literal. I don't believe that Adam and Eve existed, or that there's some angel with a
Okay.
flaming sword guarding
Okay.
us. You know what I mean? It's just not. I don't look at it like that.
Okay. And like, are you a kind of like a you kind of accept things like, uh evolution and other kind of modern scientific advancements?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even when it came to the Big Bang, I mean, that was a Catholic priest that came up with that, and he had a really
Yeah,
good understanding of the Bible as well,
true.
just like what I was telling you. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with Christianity. As a matter of fact, I think that Christians having this open mind of having this vivid imagination may lead to, being more creative in general when it comes to engineering and science. I'm not saying that they're better than atheists by any means, but I do think that it gives maybe a slight advantage in some cases of just being more open-minded to the things that seem impossible.
I can be sympathetic to that perspective for sure. That kind of, yeah, being able to maybe just like allowing some room for something that's maybe not as practical as like some scientific whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay,
like,
sure.
one that I noticed recently, right? So like I said, we have the Catholic priest. I cannot remember his name for the life of me right now. That comes up with the theory of the Big Bang, and obviously he's not reading scripture to be literal. But if I'm reading scripture to not be literal, and I'm looking at the nature of good and evil or adversity, and then I look at abiogenesis, for instance,
Hmm.
in abiogenesis, and then this may not be the only way for a single cell to turn into a multicellular organism, but I think that some research was done where a single cell, it was like a free swimming algae, I guess, was introduced to a predator, and that caused the single cell to start to conjoin and form into a multicellular organism. So in my
Yeah.
mind, I see that as adversity being the root of creation, like the root of
Oh,
life.
interesting.
Yeah, so I guess I just see it from a different perspective. So it's
Cool.
almost like, you have Adam and Eve, and then you have the
Mm.
serpent. Once the serpent is introduced, now they're going like, oh, I realize that I'm naked.
That's
So we
such
have
an
like
that's
this
an
form of
interesting
consciousness.
perspective. Huh. Hmm.
Yeah, it's just a
Okay.
different way to look at it, I think. But anyway, it's good talking to you, Mav. I like what you have up here. I'd say the only thing that kind of got me was things Jesus was not as a Christian. I mean, I do think it's a little silly, just because he's not going to be a follower of himself, right? But
Yeah. And yeah, it's just one of those things like like being able to understand like why Jesus was a Jew. Like and understanding like that is a fact like yeah, that he wouldn't have been a Christian. And I think just some people not fully grasping that as a step in kind of like what who Jesus was as a person. Like yeah.
yeah, I got you. And then the homophobic one, yeah, I completely understand what you're saying there. I don't, I could be wrong, but I don't think that there's anything written where Jesus directly is talking about homosexuality, LGBTQ, whatever. I don't want to
Hmm.
get like banned on here, but I
No,
know
no, no,
that
no, that's
Paul
accurate.
does, but Jesus, I
Yeah,
don't
Paul says a
believe says
lot.
anything. Yeah,
Paul says a lot of stuff
Paul says a
generally.
lot of things, man.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
But we have to be careful with that too, because letters from Paul, I mean, it looks like a misogynist straight up.
That's
And
what I'm right.
but we also have to keep in context that, we have him recognizing Phoebe, right, as a deaconess.
True.
So we have to understand that when there's that in there, and the fact that in this Greek literature, all of these words are just mashed together. We don't have any commas. We don't have any capital letters. There's no like way of knowing expression. So we don't know what sarcasm is either. So it's very difficult if I was to
Okay.
look at a text message between two people, all the words are jam packed together. Somebody's being
Mhm.
sarcastic. I'm not going to know. It's going to be hard for me to understand the context. There's a lot of pastors that get into those letters in general, and not every church is oppressive, and they don't have this idea that women can't go up onto the stage and start preaching to
Mhm.
to everyone. So yeah, it's the church I go to. They don't do that. We have female pastors up there, and they get a little bit more into that. But
Cool.
yeah.
That's
Anyway,
great.
yeah, it's good talking
Yeah,
to you,
for
man.
sure. Yeah.
I know you got an open mind. I always enjoy these lives, especially especially when you talk about evolution and
Yeah, I know.
abiogenesis with dinosaurs.
Haven't done that in a little bit, but we're circling back around. We'll come back around to that in a little bit.
All right, you have a good one.
You too. Bye bye. Um, so yeah, like, by the way, and I really do believe, like, I really have an opinion that like there is like when it's Christianity plus like rigidity and closed-mindedness, I think that creates, in my opinion, like room for a lot more toxic stuff. And I think, for example, like biblical inerrancy. If you're someone who's like, yeah, let's take the Bible literally, 100%. And I'm like, are you sure? You sure about that? Are you sure about that? Is what I'm saying. They're like, yeah, no, I. It's such a beautiful book from start cover to cover. I'm like, want to read it? Have you read it? Have you read the whole thing? Just glanced the whole book? Really? You want to stick with that one? Um, and I would say that is from a like the implausibility of some of the stuff that has happened in the Bible in terms of like reality, and then the moral implications of some of the stuff in the Bible. Disturbing, in my opinion. So when you're able to have some of this like curiosity and open-mindedness, and like you don't feel rigidly held in your Christian belief, I think it creates room for you to be able to be like, yeah, Jesus is cool, but then also like reality is like real. Yeah. And like I've mentioned before, I have issues fundamentally with some things about Christianity, like salvation. Like the need for salvation is my issue, which is like the whole thing, like the whole point of Christianity. So that's you know that's why I'm incompatible with Christianity. It's for that main reason. Um, there's obviously other things, but that's like the big main part of what. Yeah. Anyway, um, we're going to take a look at some chat stuff. So people are wondering like why this matters. Why does it matter that Jesus was black? Or sorry, not black. Why Jesus was like probably not white and had blue eyes and like dirty blonde hair. Um, yeah. Well, I mean, now that I'm like thinking about it out loud, there was like bigotry in the Bible. Um, damn it. Is it the Samaritans? I literally forget. There's like I said, it's been a while. Like I used to be like really into all this stuff, but it's been a while, so I forget some of the details. Um, but there were like communities in Jesus's time that were seen as like less good and like bad just by nature of you being who you are. So I think the examples are like the Good Samaritan story and like the woman at the well story, for example, um, are ones where Jesus is kind of like culturally these things are the way that they are, but I want to be different. I'm different than the culture. So like that's a benefit. So for someone to take the Bible and say, bigotry and hatred of specific types, yes, the Bible says that that's a good thing. Let's continue that. That seems to be fundamentally like antithetical to the message that like the character of Jesus tried to portray. And even like for me, taking Jesus is more of kind of like in my head, I'm thinking that there's a high likelihood that Jesus could have been a conglomeration of different characters. He could have been one person that the stories were kind of like, you know, fluffed up and things like that. Like those are things that make sense to me. Um, but the idea of a person who like wanted to teach being extra compassionate and having this idea of like loving, like being loved and like loving and like by extension loving others, I think is a nice message. And I think you can have that without the need for salvation, all the other stuff. Like, yeah, you can have that essence of like being loved by like something larger than yourself, and then by extension, allowing that love to move you and motivate you to action in like a kind way. Like that type of Jesus is one that even me as an atheist would want to sort of emulate. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah. So Sandman. This channel or this like account happens to be a lot of things where that they're common knowledge, but people don't get it. Like humans are apes. That's common knowledge. Um, But then also some people are like deeply offended by that and like get really mad at me for saying that. But it's real. It's the truth. Um, and yeah, I think it's like one of my favorite things about being alive these days is being an animal. And I know that that sounds weird to people, but I don't think people understand how liberating it is to actually understand who you are as a real person and to not have these false ideas about what you are. Like it was stressful in a different type of a way to believe that you are like a spirit inhibiting a body and like floating, not floating, but just walking through the world as a spirit. Um, a spirit in a meat suit kind of a thing. And like you have to be very concerned about where your spirit goes after you die, because you don't want your spirit to have a bad time. For example, like that is one way of kind of thinking about things. And maybe for some people, that's great. You just control all of your behaviors for the rest of your life, and you get to do this thing. And for some people, I'm sure they're like, "This is wonderful. I love it. Please control me, daddy," is what they say. Um, and like it's there is something nice about feeling controlled in the sense that like there feels like there's like some guidance or a path. You can for Christians who are really into Christianity and they leave, I don't think you people understand how destabilizing that is for people. Very destabilizing to like their people's just like general well-being and stuff like that. But yeah, it takes common sense to believe in God. I, disagree, but so I don't want to believe in Jesus. Yeah, hold on. Okay, then someone asked, why do I feel the way about salvation? So I mentioned earlier that I fundamentally disagree with Christianity because of the concept of salvation. I don't think that it's cool to have a philosophy that says like every person that's alive has something inside of them that makes them deserving of eternal torment. And in order for them to avoid that eternal torment, they must believe in something else out there, just believe in it. Um, but then when you get into the details, it's like you must believe in it in this one particular way. Then how do you know which way is the right way to believe? You really don't. Um, so good luck for your whole life. Um, yeah, and like you just are going through your life believing that at your base, like without this thing that you've asked for salvation, like you're worthy of eternal torment, like you're worthy of being rejected. And I don't believe that that's okay. I don't think that that's okay to teach people. I don't think that that's okay to believe about yourself either. Um, you are, you're just an ape. Think about it. Think about it. Like if, um, like I like, dogs. Like imagine that there's like 100 dogs that were born, and like 85% of them were just you just decided they just were bad for they like sniff too hard. Like they sniff really hard on other dogs' butts, and that makes them bad. To the point where they need to be like, tormented or something like that. And you're like, that's a fucking dog. Like they can't they can't help it but sniff butts. And I guess the ones who can sniff butts, like that's kind of an anomaly, but that seems pretty weird to condemn these dogs for doing something that's pretty dog-like. And that's how I see the Christian philosophy. It's you're condemning humans for being people. You're saying your humanity is evil. I don't see humanity as evil, I just see it as neutral. Like I don't see like a lion, like the ferociousness of a lion. They eat gazelles and baby animals. Like I don't see a lion as evil. Like just like I don't really see like a human at their base is evil. Um, I have my own opinions about like what I would think as an evil person based on my personal moral systems. But I don't believe there is something that gets to say that this is evil, like this is good, this is whatever. I can't personally make those I can't make those opinions or assumptions. Um, yeah, like what people do to pit bulls, exactly, exactly. Yeah. Um, And so yeah, and then Geo Geo. The fact that people really believe that God doesn't send you to hell, you send yourself there. That's why. That's why I fundamentally can't fuck with Christianity. Is because of that. I can't do it. I refuse. I can't do it. Um, yeah, to me, it's antithetical to the human condition. Um, it was so funny because I was reading this book about this different like psychological. I need to actually look up what the name was. What is Alderian? Okay, so Alderian psychology. It honestly reminds me of Alderian psychology in some points, like this essence where like you are the shitty things about yourself, like about your personality that you don't like, you've actually chosen. You've picked them secretly. You didn't know that you've picked them, but you've picked them, and now you got to just pick to not be them anymore. That is fucking insane. That is fucking crazy. Whoever came up with it, if who, Alder, I'm making it up. I don't know if that's actually his name. Oh my god, it is Adler, Alfred Adler. Idiot, stupid. I'm sorry. He had some good ideas. There were some. I read a book about his philosophy, and some of it is fine, but at the base, I think it's fucked up. Um, and that's the same. Yeah, fundamentally about Christianity are similar. It's just like it does not set the human up for I think a good way of viewing themselves, and like it doesn't create a good environment for like a human to live a good human life, like a human life where you're grounded in the dirt and reality, because the dirt is your home, not heaven. Heaven is not your home. The dirt, this planet is your home, like your actual home. You will rest here forever for the rest of eternity. No matter how much you want to believe that you won't, no matter how much you want to believe that your soul will float to wherever the fuck you think it will, we have no proof of that. We have no way of establishing whether or not that is true. But what we do know is that my grandfather is dead somewhere, and his body's in Haiti. So like my grandfather's body is in Haiti. That's where he's resting, and that's where he'll be on for the rest of the millennia, unless like something happens to like the site where he's buried. And like that's all I know. Could his soul be floating somewhere else? Could he be? He was a pastor. Could he be in heaven or whatever? The thing is, we none of us can tell. None of us know. So why not advocate for stuff that you do know about? Why not want the stuff that you do know to be a little bit better? Um, like like even with creationism, like we do know some stuff about how the earth was formed and blah 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 blah, all that stuff. But they're like, what if the evidence for creationism comes later? What if? I'm like, good. What if it comes later? But right now we have the evidence for evolution. So that's the thing. I hope that makes sense. Um, and also, guys, I wanted to correct myself from yesterday. There is a section of the Bible where it talks about like the description of Jesus and like said that his hair was like wool. And reading it more accurately, it's more kind of like it's not giving a description of what he likely looked like on a day-to-day basis. It's giving a description of what Jesus will look like on the day when he comes down from like the clouds to like annihilate like all the sinners. And like remember that's part of what you guys believe as Christians. Remember that's part of your theology. That like a part of your theology as Christians is that every knee will bow. It is a religion of domination and control. Like like those are to me those are just like basic facts about the religion, and that people kind of disconnect and disassociate themselves from because it's really gross and like really disgusting and distressing to think about. Um, yeah, it's a literal system that says at the end of this thing, if you don't believe the same thing that these people do, who I think are good, then literally the sword. you will all be down by the sword. But like with love, and we love you, and like, gee, God is love, and you did this to yourself. You did this to yourself, slash, like, yeah. So, yeah, what's wrong with submitting to the one who gave you life? That's like what I'm saying. Like, submitting to nature. That's like what I'm saying. Because, like, I don't have any evidence that Jesus or God gave me life. But what I do have evidence of is that I've been a part of this natural system that produces mammals and like has produced different types of mammals and primates and has gotten to me. So like I'm grateful to that. I surrender to that. But I'm not going to surrender to something that I don't know exists. Like what would that even mean? You know? So wait, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't you can't make them drink that the sword you struck yourself with. Okay, yeah. Um, that's confusing. All right. And okay. So cars, you must not have been around here, but it's very important. And also like I don't know. Can you let me know if you have been a person of color who has asked that? I don't think a person of color has asked this question in this chat today. But like I said, all I can see is very tiny profile pictures that I'm not sure about. Because like, and if you are someone who's, I'm because now this is just a study question. Um, because it's like, yeah, it's relevant. And it's one of those things that makes me so frustrated is when people are like, you see how divisive people are? When they did the election, they separated people by race and like who voted by race. You see how separate that is? And people are just trying to be separate. We just understand the system that we're a part of and that it exists and that people it's so crazy. It's so crazy. People are like, yeah, of course it's the people who, yeah, I'm annoyed and anyway. Um Goodness gracious. There's no left and right, only up and down. Let's go. Yeah, I think that's more accurate. I think that the left and right exist, um, but they're less important, at least right now. Um, I don't know if there is, but I hope there's some cult out there that exists that thinks that Jesus was American because I feel like that would just be really funny. Um, we care of race depiction because images are used in service of propaganda and control. Thank you, Zazbo. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 comment. All right. Do you mean George Floyd? Is that what you're talking about? George Droid? Um, Let me know if that's what you mean. And then also join my Discord server. Um, there in the post live chat section, one of our mods, Anima, posted some really like a really good like I think an excerpt from an article or something like that, or to the live chat section. Um, which was helpful in terms of like yeah helping even me get a better understanding of like the ways that the images have shifted and changed and stuff like that. um but yeah, okay, so let me answer this question. Who was that other guy? um um in person okay, so Jordan Neely. Okay, so I think about Jordan Neely and uh George Floyd similarly. Like these are people that are causing some type of social disturbance of some kind, and the which I would say like might be annoying for whatever reason. Like to have some type of social disturbance is annoying, but the response towards these brown bodies is disturbing, like, and should disturb people. Like, why do we think that it's okay to treat brown bodies like this? That's the problem. That's the issue. That's kind of that's what comes up for me. I don't think about like hit their drug use or whatever is going on with them. I'm like, these are people who, and for whatever reason, were in some type of situation where there's something was happening that they were disturbing, making some type of disturbance or annoying people. Um, but the real issue, like, it's like a minor inconvenience. Like, for example, if like Jordan Neely was being really loud on like a train, is being really annoying, or even being rude or mean to someone, like, that's an issue. To address it with aggression and like the violence is crazy. Is fucking crazy. So yeah. Yeah, Smagaho, you're creepy as fuck. Anyway, humans are innately predisposed to hate, to despise us, which is that's a bizarre thing to say. I don't think that that's true. I think because like we're human. So like are black people, oh yeah, are black people also predisposed to hating themselves? I don't think that that's accurate. I think that like hatred of certain people is like taught, is learned. It's not inherent. It's not okay. I'll shift my language only because of like epigenetics. So like so these things have been culturally taught. I do believe that they've been taught for long enough that they are. I would not be surprised if they are starting to show up epigenetically in people's bodies. And that's a very loose way. I believe in that a lot more than I'm saying in this moment. Like I have strong opinions that um like yeah, a lot of this stuff is like base brain, is like deep base brain, like ingrained in our bodies at this point. Um and that needs to be addressed and paid attention to. So, but yeah, there's probably something else there to talk about. But all right. Well, ethnocentrism occurs at the level of brain activity associated with hormonal responses. Um, Uptown Anti-Realist, you should join my Discord server and talk more about this, just out of, because I'm curious. Alrighty. So, just because, have you read some of the teachings of God, by the way? Yeah, anyway. Um, guys, let's let's um let's hope that this was true. Oh no, I'm pinning this one instead, Anima, sorry. Because if white Jesus is gay, is gay lover, so I like that idea. I think it's funny. Um, you can put whatever comment you had before. Yeah, I just think that's funny. Okay, and I actually have to go. So have a good day. Um, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Lots of interesting things are happening. We are gonna we're gonna go. I'm gonna go because I've